Hello, it's Rashmir here. So I often say that self awareness is a leadership superpower. Self awareness is a leadership superpower. So, what do I mean by that? And what is self awareness anyway? In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about self awareness, talk about why it matters, why it's important, why it's a leadership superpower, and also how you can cultivate it, because there are things that you can start doing right away to evolve and develop your self awareness. So, what do I mean by self awareness? I mean, at its simplest, self awareness is our ability to reflect, to see what we do and why we do it, to recognize that a lot of our patterns, a lot of our behaviors, a lot of our actions are actually driven in are actually automatic responses to things, and then to recognize and catch the root causes of those responses. So let's say somebody says something that triggers us. If we have a good degree of self awareness, we recognize that we've been triggered. We may even have some understanding of why it is that we've been triggered. Is it just the thing that they said, or is it connected to something in our past, some unresolved aspects or emotions or histories within us or within our lives that are actually the thing that we're reacting to? And if we can catch that, we can interrupt the pattern, right? We can interrupt our likelihood of just reacting from a place of anger or fear or whatever it happens to be, or upset, and instead we can choose whether or not to act, and to act with wisdom, with compassion, with empathy for ourselves and others. So self-awareness is incredibly powerful, particularly in the workplace, particularly in any kind of relationships, because the more we have self awareness, the more we are able to act with wisdom. And that's really key. That's really important. And as you can see from a leadership and a management perspective, that's absolutely vital, because our own self awareness can also help us understand, or at least think about, why other people may be doing or not doing the things that they're doing. And again, bring empathy, compassion, wisdom, understanding into those situations in a way that is useful, empowering, and effective. Now, in terms of how much self awareness we all have some degree of self awareness, right? Unless we are purely operating out of instinct and in reaction mode. But how much self awareness we have varies hugely. So, right now, on a scale of 0 to 10, just mark yourself. 0 is you have no self awareness at all, and 10 is you are exquisitely aware in every moment of every day of why you do what you do and how you respond, how and why you respond in the ways that you respond. Now, realistically, most of us are somewhere in the middle of that spectrum. And in practice, of course, where we are in that spectrum may also vary based on how we're feeling that day, right? How stressed we are, or how stressful our day has been. It may also vary by context. So I have certain family members, for example, that are more likely to trigger me, in which case my self awareness can rapidly drop. Whereas in other circumstances and situations, let's say I'm less attached to what's going on, or I'm not as close to the people, or not concerned about what they think of me, well, there my self awareness is likely to be higher. So it's not it's, whatever number you picked, chances are it's going to vary over time and in different situations and different contexts. And that is normal. But if you can recognize it, then that means you can also do things, take steps to cultivate your self awareness. Now, before I speak about ways that you can cultivate self awareness, let me just talk about different types or aspects of self awareness. So, if you read the management literature around self awareness, they tend to differentiate self awareness, or break it down into two main categories: internal self awareness and external self awareness. So, internal, as you can probably guess, is the kinds of things I've been talking about, right? Understanding why we do what we do, what's going on in our heads, how we're feeling, why and how we're reacting or acting in certain ways. External awareness, then, is much more, it's less about us, and it's more about how others in our world may be perceiving us. So it's a bit more that conversation with the world, what's happening outside of us, and our awareness, our understanding, our nuanced understanding in particular of those external dynamics, particularly as they pertain to us. Now, personally, I would add in what's arguably a third component of self awareness, And that is what I call spiritual or essential self-awareness. So it's taking this idea that you get in many spiritual traditions, which you may have come across if you meditate or practice mindfulness, which is this idea of the observer self, right? This is the self that is able to observe not just ourselves, not, and what is happening in the world, but to observe, to experience, to be in a place of non-judgment. In some sense, it's what Rumi refers to when he talked about in one of his poems, out beyond right and wrong, there is a field, and I'll meet you there, right? That, in some sense, is the observer self. Now, you could argue it's just an extension of self-awareness, and that's possibly true. I don't know. I'm not necessarily that evolved that I can make that distinction. However, I call it out as something separate because it requires refinement, cultivation, right? It goes beyond just the everyday levels of self-awareness that most people think about and talk about. And so let me wrap up this video then by leaving you with a couple of tips on ways that you can grow your self-awareness at whatever level it currently is at. One is simply reflecting regularly, daily even. The other is taking time to journal, write out your thoughts, observe as you're writing, right? The different thoughts, the different parts, the different voices that come up. Pay attention to your feelings. Really think about what it is that you're doing and why it is that you're doing, how you're reacting in various ways. Meditation and mindfulness are fantastic ways to cultivate your self-awareness. You can also cultivate external self-awareness by asking other people to reflect back to you for feedback, right? To share their experience of you. Now, you don't want to do that all of the time, but with trusted friends or with people in a situation or a context where you think things didn't go the way that you wanted to, it can be very valuable to get feedback because that helps you learn and grow. So I could go on. There's much more to say about self-awareness, but I think that is hopefully a good primer for those of you that are wanting to learn more about self-awareness and how to cultivate your own self-awareness, given that it is a leadership superpower. Thanks very much for watching. Leave me a comment below letting me know your thoughts, and also be sure to subscribe to this channel. Thanks very much and see you in the next video.